Hey everybody, and welcome back to Tech Talk. I'm your host Tobiah, and today we have a standoff between two gaming laptops. On the left-hand side, we have the Asus Rog Strix Scar Edition GL703GM, and on the right, we have the Alienware 15r4. So, just looking at the viewing angles, you can see that this is a TN panel compared to a IPS display. And if you look at those viewing angles, the IPS display does not distort the colors like the TN panel. And if we look at the, well, I don't think you can see with the video here, but looking at the type is much clearer on the IPS panel like I thought it might be. So we're going to run benchmarks on both of these guys at the same time. The Asus has a slight advantage here. I started a little bit faster. Again, looking at the screens, the clarity of the Alienware is a little bit better. So the specs on both of these, they have the latest Intel Hexacore processor, the i7-8750H. Both have 16 gigs of DDR4 2666 RAM. They both have a 256 gigabyte NVMe drive. The Asus has an added terabyte hard drive, which the Alienware does not. The Asus has a 74 watt hour battery. The Alienware has a custom 99 watt hour battery. Just looking at the two screens, I don't know if you can catch it in the video, but the colors are much more realistic on the Alienware. They're much more muted. They're not so saturated and overdone, so to speak. Also, I believe the resolution is slightly better. They're both 1080p, but because of the 15-inch screen versus the 17-inch, it just looks a little clearer on the Dell. One of the things I do like about the Asus better are these hardware keys. So you have the volume keys, the ROG keys for your gaming center, and a microphone off key. You don't have anything like that on the Dell. You have to use the FN keys in order to adjust the volume. One thing I will notice also, or say, the fans are much louder on the Asus and they kick in more than on the Dell. And also there is coil whine from the 1060 on the Asus, and I have not heard any type of coil whine on the Alienware. The Alienware seems to have a better cooling and venting system than the Asus. So it'll be interesting to see the results of these benchmarks. The Asus really did impress me. I really did like it. The keyboard, I kind of like the keyboard layout better. Plus, you get the full numlock, which you don't get with the Alienware, but I do like the build quality of the Alienware a lot better. It is just phenomenally nice. So here are, even though the Asus had a head start, the Alienware finished first with 4957 single core and 21208 multi-core. And the Asus got 4929 single core, so that's almost the same. Whereas the multi-core scored about 2,000 points lower. That's very interesting since they're both pretty much the same setup. Very, very interesting. Okay, so we're going to run the compute test now on the graphics processor. All have the latest drivers, so that should not be an issue for either one. So let's see which system has a higher graphics score. That'll be interesting since they both have the NVIDIA 1060 graphics card, which is 6 gigabytes. So we'll see here real quickly which one scores better. Now you can see the difference in the colors. They were the same for a second there, the picture. Just wanted to show the saturation difference. Also, there's better clarity on the IPS panel. You can see the textures better. So here are our scores: 125,787 for the Geekbench score on the Asus, and we got 130,000 on the Alienware. The Alienware scoring just a few percent higher than the Asus, and they're both using basically the same hardware. That's very interesting. So guys, again, the build quality, so this does get fingerprints, but they're easily wiped away, whereas this one, I can't seem to get the fingerprints off for the life of me, and it drives me nuts. It is a quality surface. It is pretty stable, but this is much stiffer. And then the design is just much more muted. Even with these lights on the side, you can turn those off and then it just looks like a regular laptop. But the design is really cool on the Alienware. I have to say I really like it. So let's see if you can see anything on the back. So there is the Alien logo going there versus the Rog Strix with the backlit thing there. And then when we look around the panel, this is plastic, whereas this is aluminum. So it just looks much more refined to me. The difference in cost between these two units was $100. Now, obviously the Alienware is normally about $300, about $400 actually more expensive than the Asus, but I got it on sale during the Memorial Day sale. So I know which one I'm taking back, and it's not going to be the Dell. Both good machines. If you have the Asus, don't feel bad. It's a perfectly awesome device, and probably for gaming, the TN panel is going to be better for you. I don't do only gaming. I mean, that's something that I do, but it's more secondary, so I prefer the IPS panel. They both, like I said, have NVIDIA G-Sync capability, so performance-wise, they both seem really fast. There's no issue there. Battery life on the Dell should be better. Let's unplug this thing and see what our battery life is. Okay. All right, let's go there. I don't like to use low settings. Let's do 75. Whoops. Sorry, there we go. Now, let's see what it says as far as time goes. Still just says 100% remain. I hate when it does that. Okay, let's see. 5 hours. So this is estimating 5 hours out of the box with all the settings on the highest. Now we'll do the same thing with this one. And again, we'll put the power back up and we'll go up to 75. And we'll turn these off here. It says 97% remain, even though I had it plugged in. That's interesting. Okay, just waiting. Let's start. For some reason, whenever I open up a browser and then close it, yeah, so now it says I have 1 hour and 33 minutes, 97% remaining versus 5 hours for the Dell. In actuality, we'll probably get about 4 to 6 hours on the Asus. In actuality, with this, we'll probably get about, I would say, 6 to 8 hours. So battery life on the Alienware is quite a bit better than the Asus, as I kind of expected, since it has a smaller battery and a larger panel. But there you go, guys. That's my side-by-side comparison review. Let me just do one other thing just to show you the okay. So this is 76% volume. Alright, so there is the Asus. Pretty good sound, pretty good video. Now we're going to try the same thing with the Alienware. Both are at 76% volume. So there you go. There's the two devices as far as sound quality goes. I'm going to give sound quality definitely to the Asus. More bass and it's louder. This feels on the Alienware a little bit stifled. Definitely not as much bass and not as much volume. So that's interesting. But the picture quality, if you compare the two, you can see more detail with the IPS panel. It just looks better. So a little trade-off there. I think, again, like I said, the Asus wins when it comes to volume for sure. And let's just try turning it all the way up here. So yeah, when you turn it up, it actually almost is the same as the Asus when it's all the way up. Asus doesn't get quite as loud. I think the Alienware is actually louder, just volume-wise, but again, the bass reproduction on the Asus is still better. So, video quality, I think for watching movies and videos and stuff like that, you're going to be happier with the Alienware. Performance-wise, the Alienware has a slight edge, as I showed through the Geekbench scores. The cameras for selfies or for Skype videos, the camera on the Asus is pretty horrible, while as the Alienware is a lot better. It's much more clear. I like it. Actually, can use the camera on that. So there you go, guys. That's my head-to-head comparison video with the Asus Rog Strix Scar Edition GL703GM versus the Alienware 15r4, the latest edition of both models. They both just came out with 16 gigabytes of RAM, 256 gigabyte NVMe, Intel 8750 Hexacore processor. So that's it. Which one do you guys like the best out of my review? I think I know which one I'm going to keep. The Asus is a little bit thinner. Actually, I have to say, one of the things that's nice about the Asus is it's less than an inch thick, whereas the Alienware is thick and chunky. But thermals seem to be better with the Alienware. Seems to have better venting, and material quality is better. Design is a little bit better. Overall, I'm going to give it, my personal opinion, I'm going to give it to the Alienware. For just a little bit more money, I think it's worth the extra cost. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching Tech Talk. This has been your host, Abaya. Have a great day, and thanks again for watching.